Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest in this series of podcasts with myself, Liam Carroll, SYS Wealth and Financial Planners. And the idea behind this podcast is to speak to experienced professionals in their industry, offering expert advice, thus giving health to your wealth. And we're delighted today to be joined by Liam Lynch. And Liam Lynch has had a healthy career, starting out as a programmer back in the 1980s. And yes, he did put a lot of work into preparing systems for the Y2K bug. That's why it wasn't a big deal, thanks to Liam Lynch. So he likes to be hand-on about technology, and he transitioned to supporting and managing the hardware in companies he worked for. And after 13 years with Aon, where he managed an IT team spread around the world, he chose to strike out on his own to focus on the areas he's most passionate about, cybersecurity and sharing his knowledge with small businesses. We're on a Zoom call with Liam today, so I'm fairly sure that we're safe anyway. So Liam, thanks very much for taking the time out your very busy schedule to join us today.
And thank you very much for having me on here today, Liam. Much appreciated.
No problem at all. I suppose the first question that we've asked people who join up on the podcast is, how has the COVID affected their lives? I suppose, firstly, from a personal point of view, Liam.
Well, from the personal point of view, kind of my whole social calendar kind of suddenly emptied. Not able to go out and meet my friends and that. And go around as freely as you wanted. Like back in the day, it was 2-kilometer limit, like so. But I suppose I'm fortunate in that where I'm living out here in the wilds of Tipperary, I'm surrounded by lovely hills and mountains and stuff. And within 2 kilometers, I got plenty of walks that are available to me. And so, I got my dogs, and they've helped keep me sane throughout the whole COVID thing. Get me out for a walk every day.
That's fantastic, and it's amazing. Everybody's been affected on a personal level, different ways, but everybody's been affected in some way by over the last 14 months. But the second part of that question, I suppose, then, from a professional point of view, and obviously you're very involved in IT and cybersecurity, but how has the COVID affected you business-wise?
Well, kind of same idea, I suppose, with the COVID when the version 1 of lockdown kicked in last March. I had a nice healthy kind of calendar looking at me, but all of a sudden it emptied, and I mean it just emptied within a week. Like there was nothing in the future pipeline. So, and I like having a pretty busy calendar, because it's good to be able to see that there's stuff coming down the line. So I was kind of thinking around, what could I do? Like I'm seeing others that are doing stuff online. So I was thinking, maybe I should do something, and I developed a set of kind of an online 1-hour kind of a cyber awareness session for specifically focused on the COVID crisis, because when crisis situations like COVID happens, cyber criminals will try and leverage that to be able to scam people, because people are in a state of concern or worried. They may not have their full wits about them, where they might be skeptical. One day, they would suddenly, be, because they're worried, they would, click on the link that they shouldn't really do it. So I developed this COVID-specific cyber awareness training, and I delivered a few of them online through various different organizations around the country. And it went quite well, and it kind of proved to myself that I was, able to do stuff online. So I then kind of went ahead and started trying to win back the business that I had lost. I went back to them saying, look, we can start doing this stuff. You've seen everybody else using Zoom. Why don't you use it? And so I started getting some of the business back, and that was at least some benefit. Some of the work came back to me, but it wasn't everything. But the one thing I suppose I find difficult though with the Zoom is that you can't read the participants when you're giving any kind of training. You don't know if they're picking up on what you're talking about as well as you would do if you were in a room with them. Like I've always been an in-person kind of guy for the training. I much prefer dealing face-to-face in training, because it's much more effective that way. But so I was able to get back to some level anyway of operation.
That makes perfect sense, Liam. I suppose from around where we are, you be and involved, I mean, a network group with yourself, would you be noted as being a leader on the cybersecurity side of things? And one group
Mm,
member of that has been Colin O'Brien, and he was very vocal. And I'm not saying anything
mm,
that I shouldn't say, because he was very vocal himself about it, that you got him out of troubles. And it's,
mm.
I suppose, now more than ever, people with your knowledge space are more necessary than they ever were, I suppose, Liam. Isn't that fair to say?
Well, yeah, because people are so much more dependent now, really for, businesses are absolutely dependent on IT and the
Yeah,
internet and online services like Zoom and Teams and things like that. So yeah,
yeah,
and that's what bad guys are looking to exploit. Like,
and on a very regular basis, then I see, Liam, that you come up on YouTube videos. Could you just, you might just give people the link that you go to in order to look at your YouTube videos, Liam, if you don't mind?
yeah, sure. So I've created a Bitly link, so that's bit.ly/L2 actual video.
Video. And how
So
often
to
do you
put
put up
that
the
in,
videos, Liam?
I put up the videos every Friday. They usually go up on a Friday morning, and they're there every week. And they're basically just short 2-minute videos that give them some kind of a advice or explaining some cybersecurity related topic, so that you might get a better understanding of that topic.
We'll have the details of that anyway put at the end of the interview, I suppose, and we'll also put it on the bio as well that's coming in. So if anyone wants to dig onto those, and I'd highly recommend every Friday to listen to Liam. I don't think I've listened to them all, Liam, but I've definitely listened to a good few anyway, and they're very useful.
Yeah.
I suppose from your own professional background, and we went into a small bit of detail at the very start of your professional career, anything within your that you feel is totally underused within your industry that people could be more aware of and use for their own benefit, Liam?
Yeah, so things like data breaches occur quite frequently. Like in recent weeks, like we've had a lot of data being exposed from some of the social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse. And now technically the social media platforms are calling them data. The data was scraped. It's publicly accessible data, but they're on a regular basis, there are lots and lots of data breaches out there, and you, as our listeners, might not be aware that they've been included in a data breach because it's possibly not being communicated properly to them. So there's a service called Have I Been Pwned, and the website for that is Pwned. So it's Have I Been PWNED.com.
Okay.
So pwned is a hacker speak for being owned or being compromised. And if they go to that website, it looks for their email address. So if you type in any of your emails that you might have into that service, it will tell you if it knows about any data breaches that email address has been included in. And it will also then give you a list of any other personal data that might have been included in there. In particular, maybe a password. And this is the thing with what data breaches are being used by the bad guys, is they're taking people's email addresses and passwords from these old data breaches, and they're trying them on other online services. So, quick example, back in 2012, LinkedIn had their user data breached, and lots of people had their user IDs, email addresses, and passwords were exposed, and criminals are now using those, or trying to use those passwords to sign into other things like like Facebook or Gmail or Microsoft 365.
Yeah.
They're trying to use the same password because everybody tends to use the same password. So Have I Been Pwned will tell you if your password has been exposed in a data breach, and if it has, I always recommend that you should reset that password and change that anywhere else that you might be using it.
And Liam, we'll have your contact details, as I said previously, at the end of the interview. So if anybody wants to contact you for some further advice, you'd have no problem taking a call or doing a Zoom call or whatever with them anyway. Would that be?
Exactly, yeah, because this stuff is my bread and butter. So talking to people about passwords and keeping things secure is all part and parcel of the service I deliver.
It's like Anton Liam, it's very simple when you understand it, isn't it? But if you don't understand it, it's not as easy.
Well, that's it. And, that's kind of, I suppose, part and parcel of the way I deliver my service. It's all kept as simple as possible.
Yeah, your language, and I've always said in the network groups, your language is always very straightforward and simple, even though you're speaking about a very technical topic. Like, so it's that's a skill in itself, actually, to be fair. So yeah.
That's kind of why my tagline on the business, you'll see it on the logo, is hashtag security simplified, because I try to keep it as non-technical as possible.
Exactly. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. As you know, we're involved in the financial services industry. But just to ask a question for you from our perspective, really, what financial product, Liam, would you most highly recommend to people, or have you found that you got the most benefit out of in your career to date?
Sure. So before I joined the Midwest Mentoring Group and met your good self, I'd always kind of thought that engaging with a financial advisor would be kind of a very expensive thing, because this is just the impression I always had about financial advisors, was they might be costly. But having had a one-to-one with yourself, I was pleasantly surprised, that when you understood my situation, and you looked at my situation with all the pensions that I have from the various employers I had in the past, you provide me with some really excellent advice, and well worth, absolutely well worth the money. So the advice I'd give to anybody is, if you're hesitating or faffing about, wondering about talking to somebody for getting some financial advice, particularly as you're maybe getting closer to your retirement age, you should definitely pick up the phone and call Liam.
Exactly.
The other Liam, he's a really nice guy, so he's really helpful, and he's a good guy. So definitely give Liam a call.
No, I'm very appreciative of that. Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I think it's like anything. I mean, we have to do it for our health and for our wealth and for our cars and our houses. You need to get our computers. We need to get a service, upgrading them really to a certain extent, isn't it? So it's like anything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, you're nearly there now, Liam. But taking up enough of your time nearly. But final question, I suppose, really, the best bit of advice that you ever got, Liam, now, be it a bit of personal advice from a parent or from a mentor or teacher, etc.
Yeah. Actually, it was from a teacher in St. Munchin's. Now, he wasn't one of my teachers. I think I ended up in his class at one stage for one class.
Did he teach Barry Coffey now was the next question.
Which?
Did he teach Barry Coffey? Wasn't Barry in your class as well?
He was in my year as well. He was. So he might have had this guy. I can't think of his name because I never had him. But his advice was never use a big word when a small one will do. And that's kind of kept me in my keeping things simple, and so my hashtag. So
that's a very simple one. Yeah, it's actually a lot of people could do with taking that advice, and they didn't hear that teacher in school anyway. That's for sure.
I know. Yeah, like when I worked in the corporate world, like I found some of the language being used by the higher ups was just made no sense to me.
What is it? Don't call a shovel an agricultural implement, isn't that? It's never the
Exactly. Yes.
Liam, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today. Very, very informative. You're top class at what you do. People in the group, in that network group where I know you from, have raved about your abilities, and you've sorted out numerous problems for people over the years. So if anybody has any doubt about being properly protected from a cybersecurity point of view, Liam is the man to contact. Liam's contact details are there at the end of the interview, and you're available by phone, by Zoom, or hopefully in a couple of weeks, Liam, you'll be available in person to do consultations with people anyway at a social distance. And exactly. So Liam, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
And thank you very much, Liam. Much appreciate this, and take care, folks. Stay safe.
And thanks everybody for listening. And until the next time, as Liam said, stay safe. Thank you.